Hello, and welcome to your Science News Update, where we're tracking the biggest breakthroughs and discoveries happening right now.
All right, here's your science news update for January 25th, 2026. We've got a ton to get through today. We're talking about the Amazon's changing climate, a planet literally getting ripped apart in space, some mind-blowing new tech, and a couple of really important health warnings. So let's just dive right in.
Okay, first up, we're heading down to South America. There's some new research out about the Amazon, and honestly, it's painting a pretty sobering picture of what's going on.
And get this, we're not talking about a quick snapshot here. Scientists have been digging into an incredible 40 years of data. That's 4 decades of detailed records from forest plots all across the Amazon and the Andes. And this long-term view, well, it's showing some really alarming changes that have been happening kind of quietly for a long time.
So here's the thing. The Amazon isn't changing in the same way everywhere. In the hotter, drier spots, tree species are actually dying off. But in other places, new species are moving in. And it all seems to boil down to one key factor: rainfall.
In fact, the researchers have come up with a whole new term for this: a hypertropical climate. You can think of it as these new, unprecedented periods of extreme heat and drought. It puts a massive amount of stress on the trees. And maybe most importantly, it seriously messes with the rainforest's ability to soak up carbon dioxide, which is, a pretty big deal for the whole planet.
And one of the lead researchers, Professor Oliver Phillips, really hammered this point home. He said that the area where the Amazon meets the Andes is absolutely critical. It's like an ecological corridor, a lifeline, and we have to protect it so that species have a place to go as their homes in the lowlands change.
Okay, now let's leave Earth behind for a minute and head way out into the cosmos, because the James Webb Space Telescope has just spotted something absolutely wild: an exoplanet that is literally being torn apart right before our eyes.
And you have to understand, this is a huge deal. Before the Webb telescope, all we could really get were these tiny little snapshots of a planet's atmosphere, just for the moment it passed in front of its star. But now, for the very first time, astronomers have been able to watch this whole process unfold continuously over a planet's entire 37-hour orbit. It's like going from a single photo to a full-length movie.
So the planet we're talking about is called WASP-121b. It's an ultra-hot gas giant, and it just screams around its star every 30 hours. And what Webb saw is that this planet is bleeding its atmosphere into space. But it's not just one tail of gas like you'd see on a comet. No way. This thing has 2 massive helium tails. One is pointing towards its star, and the other is trailing behind it. This structure is so weird, it's making scientists rethink all their 3D models of how atmospheres escape.
All right, let's rocket back to Earth for a couple of stories about some seriously clever human ingenuity. We're going to talk about sculpting at the nanoscale and then listening for falling space junk. So first up, get ready for this. Scientists have figured out a way to twist tiny little crystals to control how electricity flows. They can basically sculpt microscopic parts with these incredibly specific shapes, which could totally change the game for making smaller, more powerful electronics. They're calling it focused ion beam nanosculpting, which sounds complicated, but think of it like this. It's a sculptor's chisel, but for things that are unbelievably small. They start with a single crystal, then they use this super focused beam of ions to just carve away material, bit by tiny bit. They actually carved a microscopic helix that works as a diode, a basic electronic switch, proving that the shape alone can make something work.
Okay, now for that space junk problem. It's something we don't always think about, but it's a growing hazard. There's so much stuff orbiting up there, and when pieces fall back to Earth, it's a real danger. The tricky part has always been tracking where this stuff is going to land. Well, maybe not anymore.
And the solution is just genius. It turns out we can use the same sensor networks we already have for detecting earthquakes. Yeah, seismometers. These things are so sensitive, they can actually hear the low-frequency sonic booms that space junk makes as it burns up in the atmosphere. It's a whole new way to keep an eye on the sky.
And finally today, let's wrap up with a couple of stories from the frontiers of health. These could both have some pretty big impacts on all of us.
So doctors have known for a long time that people with inflammatory bowel disease, or IBD, have a way higher risk of getting colon cancer. But why that is has been a bit of a mystery. Well, now, researchers think they've pinpointed the exact chain reaction in our immune system that connects that chronic inflammation directly to tumors.
Okay, so here's how it seems to work. It all starts with an inflammatory signal in the gut. That signal basically sends a message to your bone marrow saying, hey, send in the troops. So the bone marrow releases a flood of white blood cells called neutrophils. But here's the crazy part. By the time they get to the gut, they've been rewired. Instead of fighting the problem, they actually start promoting tumor growth by damaging the DNA in the gut lining. It's a total breakdown of the system.
And for our last story today, a warning. Scientists are sounding the alarm about a health threat that's probably flying completely under your radar, a group of microbes called free-living amoebas.
These things are everywhere, in soil, in water, all over the globe. And they're tough. Like, they can survive extreme heat, they can survive chlorine. Some of them are the infamous brain-eating kind that cause these horrible infections. But there's another, sneakier problem. They can act like a little hiding place, a Trojan horse, for other nasty bacteria and viruses, helping those pathogens survive things like water treatment and then spread.
Whew! Okay, that was a lot. So let's do a super quick recap. We saw how the Amazon is being reshaped by a new hypertropical climate. We watched an exoplanet WASP-121b get its atmosphere literally ripped away. We learned how scientists are sculpting with crystals and listening for space junk with earthquake sensors. And finally, we uncovered that immune link between IBD and cancer and got a warning about those dangerous free-living amoebas.
And that is your science news update for today. We'll be right back here with all the latest developments in another 24 hours. Hey, if you want to stay in the loop, do us a favor and like this update and of course subscribe for more. Thanks for tuning in.